And even when everything wasn't working out and like I wasn't getting accepted, I was so sure like this is where God wants me to be. And that was the only thing that kept me going because everything around, like you said, the Zambian,
like visualizing things you do in class and actually applying them to the real world, that's actually super important.
Yeah.
So you asked about the internships and how important they are.
Then the end effect is you have people who, people go mad, people kill themselves, and we don't want it to reach those ends, right? We're saying if you have a dream and if you have the means, try to stay your course. I think that's one thing that has helped me, finding books that are on topics that I can relate to, on topics that I'm interested in. But that brings up another point for me.
Let's get this down. Get this down. Get this down. Get this down. Let's get this down.
Go. So, Kutemwa from Chingola, right? Chingola, Zambia.
yeah.
Were you born?
Chingola.
Why are you so surprised?
Every time I hear Chingola, do you know who I think about? Have you guys ever heard of software version 3 Sports?
I still have the recording. I still have the
That's
recording.
my guy. That's my guy right there from the heartbeat of Chingola.
It's why stars are born, you know.
That's true though. That statement has so much truth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the material. Like,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but that just makes my day every time I watch that video. I'm just like, wow.
Move to
I haven't been to Chingola. Right?
for real. Wait,
Yeah,
where are
the
you
only
from?
place I've been in the Copper Belt is Kitwe.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't started living yet.
I haven't started living. Yeah, I'll definitely add it to one of the places to visit for sure in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
right. So born and raised in Chingola. What are some of the earliest childhood memories that you have of growing up in Chingola?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I grew up like we've never shifted since I was born. Like I grew up in the same house. So all my memories are just like there. But I have a very close bond with all my siblings. So like the memories are, how we used to get in trouble, all of us. Like every time we do something, my mom would like get all of us in trouble. It doesn't matter who started it, who did it. So those are the memories. Like there was this one time when we would like go outside and we used to pretend to cook, like first we started with sand, you make a cake, you do these things. And then one day we're like, let's try to use real food. So we went to the house. We got like tins, like we cooked fake nishima, like we cooked a full meal outside and then mom found out. All of us were in trouble. all, of, all of us were in very big trouble. But yeah, those are the first amazing memories, just like us getting into trouble. Yeah.
Mm. This definitely is something that I feel like every Zambian went through, like just growing up as a troublesome child, making your parents just think twice whenever you go quiet and they haven't seen you in like, so yeah, that's tension.
Yeah, I feel like it's us. I don't want to say older because we are not that old, but like us, from the other generation. Yeah, we definitely have that in common. But the kids of nowadays, bro, parents have become soft. I
I'm
don't know if it's
telling
just me. I'm just like, yeah, what you have done. I saw a kid do something, and I'm like, bro, what you have done. The
Yeah.
amount of slaps I would have gotten from that.
you.
But then it's also the progression of time, right? Like now you can't really do those things without, people looking at you different, taking you to these authorities now. So discipline is kind of like you said, it has reduced.
And life is
Sure.
also on social media, so very
Yeah.
few people actually go outside, spend time together, make trouble together.
Yeah.
Speaking of social media, you have been on social media for a while now. You have a very good YouTube channel, I must say, which really uh, kind of ties in with what me and Jackson are trying to do here, right? With just
Yeah.
like giving people the exposure and letting people see from a perspective of we need Kutemwa, what Chingola now she's doing such big things. What has been the motivation behind starting that channel and just giving people glimpses into your journey and giving back? Just explain to me how that entire thing came about.
So it's a very long story, but it was because of overall it was because of the way my journey was. So I started applying. I graduated in 2017. I started applying in 2018, and like I heard of this institution. I won't say the name, but I heard of this institution, and I went there, and like I took the SATs, and I was like, oh yeah, now it's time to apply, and they basically left me on my own, like just like trying to figure out all the ins and the outs of the application. So when I tell you my first applications were bad, like I didn't know what I was doing. You know how it is in Zambia, like you just submit your results, that's it. So all the essays I was just like not even paying attention. I was just like, I think some of them even had errors in them. Like I just didn't know the standards of like what I was supposed to submit. My recommendations were those, where they just submit the same recommendation for everyone. They just change the name. My first applications were really bad. So then 2019 came and like I applied again, same thing. Like I learned a few things, I guess it became better here and there, but I just didn't know what the standards were supposed to be. So then the next time around I joined the new season youth program, and that was very like enlightening in so many ways. Just like getting guidance on, oh, this is how your essay should look and this is how everything is supposed to be. So I realized like in the beginning I wasn't a bad applicant. I just submitted a very bad application. So that was the main goal. I was like I need to let people see what the differences are, and like I need to let them know that I don't know, there's just like an important shift in perspective that's needed when it comes to like submitting applications here. So that was the first like goal of making the channel. And then I realized also that many people don't even know that there's an opportunity to like study here. So it was also like, okay, let me let people know that the opportunity is there. And then the more that I did that, more people kept reaching out. And it's like you explain to maybe 7 different people the same thing every day. I'm like, let me just put this in a video and upload it to my channel. So then it's really opened a lot of doors to like get to meet a lot of people. I've been referring people to the new season program, of course. And like it's really been a journey of like I actually have to learn while I'm making those videos, because then you touch a topic that like you didn't really think about, but then you're like, oh yeah, this is actually very important for the application process. So it's just like me doing my part to help people who are in the same position that I was in. It was hard those 2 years, thinking that there's something wrong with me, but it's just my application which wasn't up to standard. So yeah, I just want to help people who are going through the same thing that I went through.
Yeah, that's powerful, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of this, right, Jackson?
Yeah, for sure. Like we have sort of the same drive to doing what we're doing. Because Nelson and I, when we were talking about studying this thing, right? We talked about how some people don't know of like certain opportunities that are out there. So like him and I both have unique stories on how we got to where we are. And then when you hear some of our friends from back home, some of the reasons that they give of being where they are, they're like, yeah, bro, how are you here? How did you do this? Like
Mhm.
I think I was talking to Nelson one day and I told him about my friend who was like, I think you're just blessed, you're just lucky, that. I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, I get it, I might be blessed, I might be lucky, but these opportunities are there for you to tap into. And that's why we want to create this platform where people with different stories, can come on, and people who are in similar situations can see that and they can draw inspiration from that. So that's very powerful. And yeah, we sort of share the same drive.
So I really love what you guys are doing.
So what you said your application was bad, but you weren't a bad applicant. What are some of the things that you changed, or what are some of those mistakes that you used to make? I know you've talked about like generic recommendation letters.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those things that you feel like, okay, I really changed this and it might have helped me with my application?
So I feel like those two are like the biggest, because I feel like, okay, well, not I feel like, I know grades are grades. Like, you can't really do anything. Your grades are the same thing you're going to submit. But things that you write, because I thought about it, like, if I put myself in the shoes of the people who are receiving this application, like, how many names are they going to see? How many grades are they going to see? It's not even like my grades are like the best in the world. So then, like, all that they read about me, like, that's all that they're going to know about, like, the person that I am. And like coming here and talking to different people and watching different videos, I've gotten to see that the application is not really about, oh, can you, like, it's not really like, oh, can you succeed at this school? Because many people who have like the grades and the background to succeed are not even accepted. It's more about, are you a good fit for the school? And it's about the values that the school has. And it's just like, it's so specific and so personal. So if you write an essay and you're not connecting like the things that the school values, you're just saying, oh, my name is this, I want to become this, that's it. Like, why should they accept you into the school? Because how many people want to do that? How many people want to study that at the school? How many people got like A's in that subject? So the more that I got to think about it like that, I'm like, yeah, I actually want these people to read my essay and remember me, like, and say like, oh yeah, we want this person to be at our school. So my essays, like my final essay was, many people were like, why did you submit that essay? Because it's very interesting. I read it on my YouTube channel, but it was about my eyes and how I was short-sighted my whole life. So anyway, it was something very personal, but still I connected it to like what I want to be, in the future, and like the things that are valuable about my personality and who I am. And yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing. Like these people don't know you. So you're trying to like make an impact through something that's written. And even for my recommendations, I got to a point where I was like telling my professors, like reminding them, oh, remember this time when in your class when I asked this question? Or remember this time when like, oh, I got up to explain to the rest of the class, stuff like that. I was telling them, kind of like letting them remember the things that I wanted them to put. And I was like, I want this essay to talk about this and this and this and this. So then it was up to them to like, add those things. And I didn't read them obviously because, but yeah, I feel like that was a big thing, just like making it very like being intentional about everything that I write and everything that my recommenders write. I feel like everything else is pretty straightforward. Like you tell them where you're from, your school, fill out all the forms and whatnot. But those things that you write down are like so important. Yeah.
That's such a powerful thing. It's like you rightly put it, right? Everyone who's applying to those schools probably has the grades. So it's about packaging your story in such a way that it's telling your authentic self and how unique you are. That's such a good thing that you pointed out. And a huge shout out to New Seasons, by the way, for
Oh
making
yeah.
all of it possible. We'll talk about that in a minute. But something that I want to touch on that you might have slightly hinted at the Zambian culture, right? And how we do things. Uh, half of the people who probably had applied the same time that you applied probably gave up after getting like a not so good response or something like that. How did you to like just keep going and keep improving? Because that's not easy.
So a huge part about me when getting started into this is that I didn't even want to come to the US in the beginning. Like, CBU was the dream school. I was like, it's close to home, like this Sky Alpha, good programs. I was like, this is a school. Like even when I was graduating grade 12, like I had CBU in mind. Like my whole life I was just like CBU is where I'm going to go. But then afterwards, just like the way everything happened, and with me, like I just received like anyway, it's a long story. But some people went to my school and they asked for 5 names in the whole school. It's not that I was even in the like I was at Fatima Girls boarding school, very competitive. So it's not even that I was a bad student. It's just that there were people who were like amazing, So it's not even that I didn't even stand out to a point where when they asked for 5 names, my name would be on the list. But my name was on the list. And like my family and I really prayed about it because it really came kind of out of nowhere, and they were like, should we really pursue this? Should we not? So from the get-go, I was so sure that this is what God wants me to do. And even when everything wasn't working out and like I wasn't getting accepted, I was so sure like this is where God wants me to be. And that was the only thing that kept me going, because everything around, like you said, the Zambian mentality is, do this, like when it doesn't work out, try something else. It's always like, yeah, you need to be on time. Like, oh yeah, after 1 year, if you don't start college, everyone's going to start asking questions, your parents, your mom's friends, their friends, like so many things are happening in the background. And if it wasn't for just like the strong conviction I had, I would have given up, because it's not even that I failed my grade 12 exam. I would have definitely gone to one of those schools in Zambia. I actually applied to UNZA like in my third year. My dad was like, okay, no, let's just make it a backup. So I applied to UNZA, I got accepted early into the medical school. I was like, oh yeah. But I was like, no, my heart is not there. Like I just couldn't do it. Like, yeah. So that was the only thing that kept me going, just having that strong conviction and knowing that at the right time, and even the time that it worked out was perfect. Like I can't even start explaining all the ways that like me coming that specific year was perfect, but it was really just like God's perfect timing. And while I was there, I wasn't just sitting down. I got to like teach, and which I love doing, by the way. So it was just very perfectly lined up, and I didn't even waste those 3 years at all. Like I grew so much during that time. But yeah, the point is, I knew that that was what was supposed to happen, and it happened the way it was supposed to happen. Yeah.
But dude, God's time is the best. And Jackson, you might chime in here because you also have something similar, right? Like you just didn't apply and then come the following year. So what kept you going, man?
I think similar to Kutemwa as well. I knew that there was something more, and I just had to keep on trying. So, um, yeah, for me, it was slightly different. I think I knew in high school that I was gonna go abroad. And, when you say abroad, we mean any place other than Zambia. So yeah, while I was still in like what 10th grade or 11th grade, I knew about opportunities outside Zambia. So when I was in 12th grade, I started applying. However, it took me 4 years to even come to the United States. So it doesn't mean that you know the first time you try something out that is gonna work out. That's not always the case. So I just kept on going, man. I knew that I wanted something more. Uh, there's I don't know how to put this or to quantify this, but there's something deep down in me just told me keep on trying, just keep on trying. You're gonna receive. If I tell you I received over 50, it is with genuine regrets. I'm telling you, those messages. I think I'm the expert at those messages because I applied to a lot of places and I was receiving it is with genuine regret over and over again. But I just kept on trying, kept on trying, kept on trying, and then God always finds a way in to send new seasons my way. And here I am. So yeah, just never stop doing what you've been doing, man.
When you got those rejections, right? What do you think you were doing wrong for you to get those rejections? And what did you do different? Yeah. Yeah.
Me? Okay. Now, um, unlike Kutemwa, I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, I used to think of myself as one of the top dogs in the classroom and in the school and all that. So like I was one of the top, even like from junior secondary and all that stuff. I used to
Mm-hmm.
do everything that I could do, get good grades, one of the best in the school, participate in clubs and all that stuff. You go for some competition, you come on top. Your writing is good. When you write something, your teachers are like, wow, this is some good stuff. This is some good stuff. So I grew in confidence. I was like, I can try for whatever I want to try out, and it's gonna work out. And so when I started receiving those, it is generally great. I was humbled a bit. I think it's just a realization where like, oh yeah, you might be the top dog in your small circle of 5 people, but in the world out there are
Mm-hmm.
others that are top dogs as well. So just bring yourself down. Not necessarily doing something different because the results were still the results. I think my essays are what I changed a little bit because in my essays, I think I wasn't really focusing more on thinking about what the reader is going to read, like Kutemwa said. I was just like, yeah, I want to tell them something about me. Let me tell them whatever I want to tell them. If I want them to know about this, I'm going to tell them about this, forgetting that, oh, these people are going to receive thousands of emails and of applications, and yours has to stand out. They need to know you through your application as well. I think that's the only aspect I changed, but the humility, I was definitely humbled. So it humbled me and just gave me that understanding to say, yeah, not everything you try for you're going to reach, but you just have to keep on trying and trying. And you are not the top dog in the world. Just humble yourself, and you never
Yeah.
know what will happen.
You don't need to be the top dog, right? You just have to be one of the dogs.
Bro, just be there. That's all you gotta do. You don't even have to be top. Just be there. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a powerful thing, man. And then coming back to you, Kutemwa, one thing I do know about you is you're a very systematic and well organized person, right? Like you were just telling me before we started recording how like you switched off your phone because you had to concentrate on this one thing, and that's one thing I admire about you. It's your power of conviction to do whatever you set your eyes on. And I think one thing that I have observed from some of the people that I've been following who are successful, right, is they have what how can I describe it? They have like a unique way of doing things, or some things that they follow religiously that helps them, whether it's telling yourself certain things, say I'm gonna make it no matter what, I'm going to do this. It's like you have those goals that you want to reach, right? But I want to know, what are some of your daily habit things that you do, or a routine that you've been doing for a while that you feel like has helped you so much to be where you are?
Well, it's been a lot of like adjusting. So one thing that has really helped me, first of all, is knowing myself. It took me a very long time to get to a point where I can confidently say like I'm on the journey. Of course, I'm still learning new things about myself as I go.
Yeah.
But I was part of this time management class last semester, and it's from a pastor who I got to meet at Xavier. But the biggest point that he shared with me is that time is like the most valuable thing ever. Because we were kind of going through a list of things that people value, like, oh yeah, there's time, there's money, there's, I don't know, family, friends, different things like that. And we realized like time is something that you can't get back, first of all, but also once you use it well, like there's so many things that you can achieve. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, just like the realization that my time is very valuable. And then the more that I know myself, I get to see like different parts that I'm like, yeah, this I need to work on, or this I need to like improve on. So my goal every day is efficiency. That's one of the habits that like I'm still building and working on. It's like, how can I make the best use of this time that I have? So if it's like, I don't know, I have a class, I'm always looking for a better way or a faster way to like get things done and stuff like that. So I find that I have like short notes, so I don't have to read through a whole PowerPoint every time I study, like just like small strategies like that. So it's kind of like just having that mentality of my time is valuable. I need to be very efficient. And also in that same vein, I think of like how like the verse that I think of every time is in Luke 2. I think it's like Luke 2:18, where it talks about how Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and in favor with man. So that's my goal every day. Like I want to grow in wisdom. So like what am I learning on a daily basis? I want to grow in stature. So like physically, am I taking care of myself, my health? And then in favor with God, my relationship with God, how strong is that? Because I know that once I'm right in that area, everything else kind of just like falls into place. And then favor with man is like my relationship with other people. So I think the biggest thing is just the mind. Like the more that I'm thinking of these things on a daily basis, I write down my goals, I look at them every day just so I can remind myself of like the person I want to be. So then it makes it worth like shunning certain aspects. Like you said, when I'm studying, I put my phone away because I got to see that once I'm like, oh, let me respond to this message. 20 minutes later, I'm like scrolling through Facebook. I'm like, nope, this this can't happen. So it's like, okay, what's a better way to do that? Maybe I should set times to like, or time myself and respond to my messages. But anyway, it's just a matter of like always having in mind that I need to use my time well, and also thinking of how many things do I need to achieve in my life, and like always reminding myself of the person that I want to be. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. It was very abstract, but it's more of a mentality thing than like a habit. Because the more that I change my mentality, the more that I'm able to like build and develop certain habits. So that's been like the strongest asset. Yeah.
Mm.
Like I hear that as an answer to most people that are like somewhere better than the rest. They always say, it's your mind, it's the mentality, just be positive and all that. I even heard one person give this as a response to somebody who was going through some mental health, and then they were like, "Yeah, bro, I'm going through some moment of depression." Then the answer that the guy gave was, "Just stop thinking about being sad. Just be happy." Like, bro, I'm depressed, and you just want me to be like, yeah, it's just in your mind, just in your mind. Just tell your mind, no, you are happy. But I think it's harder than the saying goes. Like, just telling somebody, just change your mentality, is more difficult than it sounds. So, like, what exactly, or what are some of the steps you would encourage somebody out there to change their mentality? Like, what are some of the things you've done, or some of the things you think people should do to change their mentality?
That's a great question. I'm thinking it through as I give a response. I think one of the biggest things is just being aware of like, I don't know. I had to reach a point where I'm like, what I have inside me is too valuable to like waste time. So what I did was I wrote down, I started this document where I wrote down like all the goals I have. And then I also wrote down all the skills that I have and like just like, oh, where do I want to be in the future? So it's more so like, because you can think, oh yeah, I know what I can do. But writing it down is just so much more like it makes you more aware of the person that you are. So I think that's a good thing, just like writing down. So write down your goals, write down what you've like achieved or something like that. But just like be aware of what's inside of you. And then also write down what you want to do, like the place that you want to be. But the thing about that is like it's easy to be very like to think very big and be like, oh yeah, I want to like for me, I want to build a school. That's one of my goals. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to build a school. And then I'm like, oh, maybe when I start working 20 years from now, that's very far. But anyway, I'm like, oh, when I start working and I have this and this, then I'm going to build a school. But one of the other things I did was writing down practical steps. So under each goal, first I wrote down like I said, all the different like parts. So like the physical, the spiritual, the mental, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, under each thing, what do I want to achieve? What do I have? What do I want to be? And then I'm like, okay, what are the practical steps I can take to like reach that point? I read this book, Atomic Habits. It's a great book. But it made me see that just the small changes are worth so much more. So like one of the things, like I said, is building a school. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. But what can I do now to get to that goal? So I'm like, okay, when I'm watching YouTube, I'm only going to be watching like educational videos about that topic. So then I reach a point where I become aware of the different steps maybe that I need to take. And that's still building me mentally and like reaching me, like, helping me to get to that goal. So yeah, I feel like also writing down like steps that you can do now and like habits you want to build now to help you reach like your long-term goals. But yeah, writing down definitely helps to be more aware of who you are and who you want to be. Yeah.
That's very powerful. They say you always get a $1 million worth thought every day. So if you never write it down, you're just passing down on those thoughts. And it's a very practical and easy thing to do also, right? Like just put your thoughts to paper, and it also helps you to be accountable in some way. Because every time you look at it, say, I haven't yet done this, and I wrote it down. Not sure if you can see my vision board on the other side, but there's a whole list of things that I need to do. Every time before I go to sleep, I look at it, see what I accomplished that day, erase it, add something else. But one thing I really want to understand about you, Kutemwa, right, is because your journey is unique, and I'm really inspired in how you manage to merge like your spiritual aspect to things and your your day to day, because mostly the people that I've seen in Zambia are either or. So it's either you're too spiritual, back church fear, and then this other side is lacking, or the other way, he's into too school to an extent that he or she tends to forget about the maker. And stuff like that. So, how do you think this has played a role in keeping you grounded, and what do you think makes you keep going in this light?
In terms of like specifically the spiritual, or just like everything?
Everything. Like, how do you balance it, and how do you make it go together?
So the biggest thing for me is like how I'm like the person that I want to be. I learned that from the spiritual. So I started by building a spiritual foundation. Like that's one of the things I appreciate about being home for so long, is it gave me a chance to like just build on my spiritual life outside of school. I had no classes, you know. That's all I used to do. I was like serving at church, different ministries, different meetings and whatnot. So I realized that the more it's really connected, because the more that the more that I love God, I'm like, oh, I want to love the people who are God's children. So it's like, oh, how do I build up my social life? Like, how do I want to get to a point where I have good relationships with people? And then I'm like, oh, I want to be able to give to the work of God. So how do I get to a point where I'm financially doing well, you know? And then also there's an aspect of, if I'm in God, I want to do everything for God's glory. So then it gives me that like hunger for excellence. I'm like, yeah, I want to actually like do my best in everything that that I do. So that's definitely the foundation for me. Just like kind of seeing who God wants me to be, and then allowing that to like be the fuel for everything else. And that's, I'm telling you, that's like the best motivation I ever have in my life. I'm like, I actually want to get to the point where God wants me to be. And like that's given me so much like deep appreciation and value for everything else in my life. And like for balancing it out, I think it's also like a combination of like, I don't know if discernment is the right word, but like being able to sort of plan like ahead of time. So if I say like in my, it's kind of goes with like thinking of the different aspects. So I'm like, going for my spiritual life, what do I want to do? So okay, I want to wake up early in the morning, have my devotion, and I'm like, okay, the morning is just for God. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. In the class, in the afternoon, obviously I have classes. I'm going to go to class. Then I'll study. Then I'll do this. But I feel like um it's just like the spiritual that kind of fuels everything else. And I like, I don't know if other people's experience is different, but the more that I am like focused on my spiritual life, everything else just falls in place. Like it's just like there's so much grace to like handle everything else in my life. So I don't know. I haven't met anyone who's like overly spiritual to a point where they're like not even bathing every day. I don't know. But but my experience though is that once that's in line, everything else is just like, yeah.
Talk about personal health books. Atomic Habits. What other books have you read? What other books should we read?
So this is very hard to talk about. But like I didn't grow up reading at all. Like so in my house there's this in my house there's this like, so like there's this room, not a room, it's just like a thingy of shelves. Anyway, it has so many books, like so many books. So there's this one time I was like, oh, let me try to read a book. I tried to read, I couldn't get past the first like chapter. And like I tried so many different books and I couldn't do it. Like, so in my head I was like, I don't like reading. It's just not for me. But I realized when I came here, I was so challenged by first of all seeing how the reading culture is. I'm like, no, I need to do better. Like I need to try. So then I read this book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. That book I recommend. It's really amazing. It talks about like the balance between being emotionally healthy and being spiritually healthy, which most people like shun and just like focus on the spiritual. But anyway, that's the first book like I read from cover to cover. And I realized it's just the books I was reading which I wasn't interested in, like when I was young and stuff like that. So I'm definitely just getting started on my reading journey. And I have a book that I'm reading all the time. So like right now I'm reading 12 Extraordinary Women of the Word, and like how God shaped them. So I always have a book that I'm reading, but I'm definitely just getting started. I think I've only read like 5 books, like
Mm.
cover to cover, outside of course, my academic whatnot. But yeah, I haven't read as much as I would want to, but I'm getting there.
Jackson, give us some books, man.
Bro, I think I'm actually worse than Kutemwa, bro. Like in terms of reading.
Yeah.
Reading, like I'm not that good at reading. Although I want, like it's something I want to do more often. There are many book recommendations that I have, and I just haven't started reading them yet. Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't know of any. You would know more, Nelson. You
Yeah.
definitely read more than I do.
Yeah, I sort of got into this habit, right? I just felt like and I keep having this feeling like I need to experience life in so many different angles. And unfortunately, I cannot be in every place all the time. So how do I get that? It's been documented in books. For example, I'm currently reading a book. I think it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, recommended to me by K Plus. Just that hit him in
Shout out
Zambia.
to K+.
And so it just gives you different perspectives about so many different things, right? And I mean, books, like they give you so many insights on different topics, stuff that you don't really need to experience, but someone else out there experienced it. And much to Kutemwa's point, the reading culture in Zambia is it's bad. It's bad. Aside from your academic books, you're not reading anything by the side. So yeah, you're really growing and developing in just one facet of life, and then life is never one dimensional, right? It's so dynamic, it's always changing. So you always need to have that balance. And like just like you rightly put it, right? Reading books is about finding topics that you like, that excite you, and not just you take a book, you start reading about some man in West Africa or stuff like that. So one thing that has helped me with books is I'm trying to learn more about how world economies work and how business in general works. So a friend of mine recommended a very book that I keep talking about. It's called Dead Aid by a Zambian author by the name of Dambisa Moyo. And it just talks about how aid hasn't really helped Africa as much as it's been portrayed to. And it even offers solutions on how that you know, can be rectified. And I got to learn so much about even how bonds and securities could actually help the government, how much money treks from students who are in the diaspora into Africa, and how much that also drives the economies. There's just so many different things, and I was fascinated by that, and I just got more and more interested. So I think that's one thing that has helped me, finding books that are on topics that I can relate to, on topics that I'm interested in. But that brings up another point for me. The author of that book, Dambisa Moyo, she is such an inspiring lady. From I think Lusaka, Zambia. She came to the US as well. She studied here. She worked for Goldman Sachs for a while. I think now she works for some. Oh, now she's independent. To me, those are some of the Zambians that we should be looking up to in terms of just how much they've achieved, how they've achieved it, and what they stand for. Who are some of the people that you looked up to growing up, or even now? It could be Zambian, someone from out there.
Um, the fact that I can't think of anyone right now says a lot. But
And
you
it could
know,
be as simple as, your parents, right?
oh yeah, definitely. Like, because I was thinking of in terms of the goals that I have, like, are there people who I'm looking up to who actually achieved like the specific goals I want to achieve? I feel like for me, it's always about like mostly what I admire about people is like the traits that they have, as opposed to like the goals or I don't know where they are in life. So I learned a lot from my parents, and even now, like me being able to like survive on my own, is because of the things that I learned from them. So my mom is very like business minded, like even just in conversation, like in everything that she's doing, she's always looking for like opportunities to like make it grow, opportunities to like build on something that's already there. And like I guess the nurturing aspect of a mother that I really love about her. And my dad is focused. Like once he sets his mind to something, it is going to happen. It's going to happen no matter how small. Like he started the farm. I know like this sounds like a motivational speech, but he started his farm with one chicken. And like, no, it's really like I really saw
Oh
him
yes,
start from scratch.
no.
No, I really saw him like build something out of nothing. So Yeah, and even like different aspects, like my mentors who have like approached to be my mentors are always people who have seen like make opportunities out of there being nothing. People who are just like, I don't know, it's always about like not mentalities, but anyway, just their qualities, just more so admiring a quality that I also want to emulate. Yeah.
Talking about qualities and skills, what's a skill that you wish you had learned in life? And I'll go first on this one, and I want everyone to chime in.
Mm-hmm.
I had learned more about public speaking and just communicating in general. In Zambia, we have this thing of apa kurunga baderanda, you cannot speak up, or on most issues you're not really, given that opportunity to say what you think or what your 2 cents are on the issue. So mostly we're always living just with our own thoughts. Like, oh, there's this thing going on. You just let other people talk about it. You don't really give your opinion on it. So I just felt like that. I still feel like that affects us in some way, because then people are not really that free to talk about how they would do something differently, right? So public speaking is one of those things that I wish I had learned earlier on. So what are some of those skills, in your own opinion, that you feel are super important?
Do you want to go first, Jackson?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's sort of similar but different to Nelson. Uh, I've always been great at public speaking, so to say. I'm always either one of the loudest or the loudest in the room.
Oh,
Yeah, so like talking, I always talk. However, I don't know what term I can use for this, but I think I'm too humble, if that's the word to use for it. Like we grew up being told, when like Nelson I said, when an elder person is speaking,
Mm-hmm.
don't say anything, keep quiet. But for me, it wasn't just for elders; it was for everybody in the room. So if everybody's quiet, of course I want to talk, I want to entertain everybody. I'll be the loudest. But if somebody starts speaking, I always listen, and that hindered me to a point where sometimes, like in retrospect, of course, I'm like, had I said something there in that moment, I would have changed something. I would have this would have happened differently. But in the moment, whenever somebody is speaking, even though I can see that whatever they are saying is either nonsense or it's not that helpful, I don't speak up. I never used to speak up. So I wish I had that aspect where, because I have friends. You've met my friend Bosco Nelson. That
yeah.
guy can talk mid sentence. Whether you're saying something sensible, he can just cut you off like that, and he doesn't care how you feel. And I feel like that's something I lacked, and I think I still do lack. I always try to leave people, let them say whatever they say, and if it's gonna take 1 hour, it's gonna take 1 hour. But I don't have that. I don't know. I can't cut somebody off. I just feel like that's disrespectful, and I feel like there's a lot of I wouldn't even say opportunities, but there are certain things that would have been done better had I said something. Because there are moments where I definitely know that I know better, and what that somebody is saying is not helping anybody. And if I say something, it's probably going to help somebody, but I never say anything. So that's a skill that I think I would have loved to grow or have had in growing up. I would have helped a lot of people.
I think for me, like, I wish I learned how to explore my interests when I was young. Because, like, I don't know, being here really opened my mind to a lot of things. Like, I've gotten to meet so many people who are just like so, I don't know if multifaceted is the right word, but
Yeah.
bring up psychology, they will have a full conversation with you on it. Bring up this full conversation. Like, I'm always like learning from different people. So, I don't know. In my mind, I was like, how come? I started questioning myself, like, how come I don't know anything about this or this? Like, and I realized I just wasn't taught to like explore, um, just like explore my curiosities and things like that. So I know if I was doing that when I was young, I would know so many things. But I have always been just like focused on school, do the cleaning, I don't know. But I've never really, like, I'm just now learning how to explore just like the different areas of life and actually know what's not like in my field or in my classes. So yeah.
So do you think anything has changed about your perspective? Is it still just always it's school, it's school, it's school, it's school, or now you're also taking that approach of, oh, okay, there's school, but then you're also developing all these other areas, and how are you trying to bring that together?
Yeah, there's definitely been like a huge shift in mentality. Because now when I think about something, I think it's also realizing like how many opportunities are there for me to learn. Like in this world, if you don't know something, you just don't want to know. Because you can literally look at a YouTube documentary and learn so much in 5 minutes. Like literally. So wait, I forgot the question.
The question was, how different is the approach now that
Okay.
you take so many facets to this?
I think it's just the taking action.
Mm.
Because before that, I would think about something and I'm like, yeah, oh, first, I think just randomly, oh, how do batteries work? And, then I'm like studying chemistry the next day. Like, but now when I think of something, I'm like, oh, now I'm curious about this. And I'll do a search and I'm like, okay, where can I learn more about this? So it's just like taking action in those moments and like being aware of what I'm thinking in the moment.
Mm.
Changed. But I've definitely learned a lot from that because the more I learn, I'm like, now I have a question about this, and then this, then it's just like this whole trail of like different things that I'm learning.
Which is a good thing, right? Because then you go down this rabbit hole where you're just being surprised and discovering all these different things, and you're just like a happy little kid who's being given candies. Like whenever you learn, you get candies. Like, oh wow, this is great. You go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what other practical things in terms of um, academic wise do you think we really lack as a country that we can improve on? I'll give you an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grade 5, grade 6, I was talking to you about photosynthesis, respiration. And for some reason, it just sounds like this mythical thing. It's like you, they're almost just forcing you to imagine it when they can actually show you that thing practically, right? Like you can do simple experiments in class, and for me, that's one thing I feel like we can improve on. School, Zambia, it's like school is a very practical thing. Science is a very practical thing, right? And we have to start taking action in terms of just doing those simple. Just put a plant in front of the classroom. Show the students, okay, so today we water it. This happens, and let them observe it. Start growing that curiosity, right? You find over here that there's like children who are like, I don't know, 8 to 10. They're in boot camps. They're being taught how to code. They're being taught how to design. What are some of those skills that you feel like, as a country, we can maybe start polishing up to reach this standard that the world is definitely at? And we haven't even started going there, but the world is already there.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Like the practical aspect, and you even remember it more because like you can actually visualize how it looks in real life. And one of the things, like thinking of the education system, like comparing it in the US versus in Zambia, I really came to love the Zambian system in terms of us learning the same, like grade 10 to 12, 3 years, you're literally learning the same thing, taking all the important subjects that you need. And I realized like my foundation is very strong because of that. Like, because here it's like you learn it for one semester, that's it. You never see it again in your entire life until like maybe you get to college or something. So I'm really in love with that system where we keep learning the same thing over and over again. But one of the things that I didn't learn was how to learn. I feel like that's a skill that we need so much. I mean, I didn't have the curiosity to like go beyond what was asked of me at that like stage of my life when I was in high school. And like looking at how the exams are, and this may be just my own opinion, but I feel like it's too straightforward. It's like, especially subjects like civic education or something. They literally photocopy a sentence from the book, leave a gap. That's the question in your exam. Like you didn't really have to go beyond what's given of you, what's given to you. And that may have just been my experience. But I feel like we need to like go deeper, like, or at least expect the students to go a little bit deeper than what's given to them. Because it's like, it's not really, even the questions that are like free response, they weren't really like testing your understanding. It was more like, okay, so let's say we learned about photosynthesis, like you said. The exam will be, tell me 6 steps of photosynthesis, explain how they happen. it's not really like, oh, if photosynthesis didn't happen in a plant, what would, stuff like that. I
Yeah.
feel like we weren't really trained to go beyond and use the knowledge that we have and like apply it in real life. And yeah, I took biochemistry last semester. That's no, but like that class taught me that I didn't know how to learn because it was so practical. Like we would learn a concept in class, then the exam is like so practical, like, oh, polar bears in the what, stuff like that. Like you're taking this concept that you learned and applying it in a real life situation. So I feel like that's something that we definitely need more of because that also spurs innovation. It's like you're learning this and you're like, okay, what can I do with this information? Yeah.
That's so true. The practical aspect of it, of anything really in the Zambian school system, really lacks. But I feel like you've reminded me of a great point. Our foundation is so grounded because just from the little information from my grade 12 and from my 1 year of A levels that I did, I was able to do so much in the US system because I had such deep understanding of things. The challenge that was only posed for me was now translating that into the practical aspect of things, right? And this is where I want to get Jackson's point because you've had some really amazing internships. And that's one thing in Zambia that it almost sounds foreign and you say, yeah, in university, are you doing any internship? It's like, no, I only do an internship at the end, towards the end of your whatever you're studying, right? So from your own perspective, Jackson, with your internships and the major that you're doing, how do you think that improves a student in like being well-rounded and being practical and a critical thinker and just solving problems on the go?
I think it's actually very important. It's one thing knowing a concept, and it's another thing applying it. So things like internships for university students, even high school students,
Yeah.
is super important.
Yeah.
It's one thing telling somebody 1 + 1 is equal to 2, and then it's another thing telling them, oh, if one person has an apple, then you get an apple from them, you get 2 apples. So like visualizing things you do in class and actually applying them to the real world, that's actually super important. So you asked about the internships and how important they are. They are very important for people in every field. Most of the stuff we learn in the classroom is textbook stuff that somebody researched hundreds of years ago. They proved it, and yeah, that was their perspective. Now take that concept that they proved, bring it to the real world, and check if it's going to work for you in the current moment. So the challenges you're going to encounter in that process while you yourself are doing it, they are unique to you, and they'll teach you more than what you'll find in the textbook. So in the textbook, yes, that person encountered challenges, and they're going to lay down their challenges, but that's in a different time. That was when they were going through that. That could be different to you in the current moment. So you need to apply whatever you learn in the classroom to the current world for you to gain a deeper understanding, know these things on a deeper level. Because yeah, that's super important, and I agree. That's one thing that we lack in Zambia. The foundation is great, awesome. When we came here, in mathematics and science, we were pretty much better than the average person in the classroom. But then when they try asking questions about applying whatever concepts we learn, we lacked a little bit. We were like, yeah, we were just told that 1 + 1 is equal to 2. We don't know what you mean when Mr. John and Mr. Jane Doe do this. We don't know what that means. All we know is give us numbers, we're gonna solve it for you. When you give us letters in mathematics, we're like, what is that? That was a bit challenging, but the foundation was very good, and the practicality of it is so much needed in Zambia, and we lack that thing. I have friends who are in university right now. They have never done an internship. They are not even thinking about internships. And I tell them, yeah, I do internships here. Then they're like, yeah, we only like that. They only do internships if it's a requirement. If their course is like you need an internship to graduate, then they're gonna do it. But without an internship, if it's not required, they will not even think about it. And I think that's a flaw that is actually in the system, the way we teach our students. I'm actually glad, Kutemwa, you want to start a school, because a school as well is part of my big idea for what I think I'm called for. I don't know how true that is, but I think I'm called to do something related to education in Zambia. So I've always thought of myself building a school. We might collaborate later on, who knows? But yeah, so so like the system has a problem somewhere because the teachers themselves, there are some students that depend on the teachers. So they like I don't want to say depend, but like there are students like me who really take in what the teachers tell us. So
Yeah.
if a teacher is not trained to help me learn how to learn and how to apply whatever I learn, I won't get it anywhere unless my parents teach me, which they didn't. So, many students will be lost, and it's something that I hope my school is going to achieve: teaching people how to learn, teaching people how to apply whatever they learn, and providing those platforms or connections where they can go and apply themselves. But definitely, practicals are so much needed, man. Everybody needs to do at least 1 or 2 practicals before they actually go and apply them full time.
Yeah, and one thing that living in the current moment or in this current system of things offers is we can definitely recommend solutions for this, right? Like now you don't really need that big of an internship. You can even start your own project, right? Let's say you're doing computer science is a perfect example. A designer. Just design a website, put that as your portfolio, put it on your in Zambia, as we like calling it, put it on your CV. Put it on your CV. If you're doing something if you're doing medicine, I think is the only practical course in Zambia where and it's only practical as well because they're kind of forced to do it. You
They're
have to.
required to, yeah.
But let's say you're doing maybe, I don't know, something in science, maybe biology, chemistry. Go and volunteer at Trade King. Try to see if you can talk to someone at Trade King or whatever dream company you want. Or you can even just do YouTube videos, see how other people do it. If you're studying to be an economist, try to get in touch with some of the top dogs in Zambia who are doing that and try to see if you can learn something. I feel like in Zambia we just always look up to these people like they're the untouchables. But over here, a slight shift that I've seen is if you see someone who's doing something great, you want to tap into their knowledge. You want to see how they got there, what you can learn from them, how you can, use that to your advantage. So I'm glad that we spoke about that, and I'm glad you guys want to build schools. Maybe I should also dream to build a school. I don't know.
Of course.
It's been my dream since I was like, what, 4 years old. And no, 4 years old. I'm exaggeration, but yeah. I think I was in like what, grade 1 or 2 or something. And the reason why I saw that, the reason why I have that dream is because I saw, I mean, I might sound corny, and people might be like, yeah, you're lying, bro. That young, you're thinking that deep. But I really was. Because I think I would see, there are some of my friends that would struggle understanding something. And it's not entirely their fault. It's just the way the teacher is presenting that information to them. And it's like, if only the teachers could do something better, maybe this student would understand. And from there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to create my own school. We're going to follow the Zambian system, ECZ, whatever, but the teaching culture will be different.
Right. So Kutemwa, so far we've talked about how some of the challenges that you faced coming up and how you persevered really to get to where you are. Is there any other significant failure or setback that you've suffered that you feel like really shaped you up?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's like a failure, more so. But
Just
like,
a setback.
yes, a setback. I don't know if I can call it a setback, but I grew up always hearing, "Oh, you're so smart, you should do medicine." And that
Yeah.
was it. Like, oh yeah, medicine is the way to go. In my mind, I knew I didn't want to do medicine. Like, I was just not interested in, I don't know, I just didn't have that interest. But I tried searching. I was like, websites, I don't know, trying to see what careers are there. And the list was so limited. I never really tried to like explore beyond. You just say, oh, engineer, nurse. I'm like, I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a nurse. Okay, being a doctor is okay. I kept on convincing myself, oh yeah, medicine is not bad. You know, I haven't get to help people. Okay. So I spent like so many years convincing myself that I want to do medicine. And so
Yeah.
when I came to Xavier, which is very known for its pre-med program, I was like, oh yeah, okay, medicine. And like I came as chemistry pre-med because I know I love chemistry. In my mind, I just didn't compute that I can just do chemistry on its own. So
Yeah.
anyway, I spent a whole year in pre-medicine, and like I learned a lot because the pre-med program is amazing. Like they trained me to be proactive from day one, like look for opportunities. So I learned a lot from it, but like I spent all that time trying to convince myself of a dream that wasn't even mine because I wasn't really aware of like, oh, there's this that I can do. And it's so obvious. I love teaching. I love chemistry. I can be a chemistry professor. I love research. Like it's a combination of everything that I have ever loved in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. I was just so closed-minded in that area. And coming here really opened my mind because you meet people who are doing like interesting combinations of things and you're like, oh, I've never thought of that. So yeah.
I always say this in Zambia. I don't know why we think being bright or being intelligent is synonymous to doing medicine. Like that's such a gosh. These days, whenever I see that, it's like someone gets 6 points, like this one needs to do medicine. This one needs to do medicine. It's like, oh, okay, okay, but that's so true, and we really need to have a mindset shift. It shouldn't work like that. It's the same way as how I'm now looking at things. Not everyone who gets 6 points, 7 points, 8 points should go to UNZA or CBU. There are other great schools out there. If you really know what you want, yes, quality should matter, but you don't always have to go to those two schools, right? Don't be too closed minded. One thing I've learned over here, like you right put it, is like you find someone studied poetry, and it's just like, wait, you went to school to study like how to write poems? That's
How to rhyme?
yeah, how to write. They are so passionate about it. It's like, yeah, I love it. My passion since I was a child. I was like, wow, okay, that's so unique. Like I work with a guy who went to school and did the whole degree about drumming and music. And that's so cool. It's like, wow, you really followed your dreams and now you're living your life. Like so many people have dreams that they never get to live because society just takes them and pushes them in this one size fits all. That's such a great example that you've given. And it's such a practical one to like the place that Zambia is at right now. I'm not sure if you heard this, but Unza just failed, or I'm not sure if they failed, the students just failed, like plenty of students. I think they trimmed them from 2,000 to 200. So what happens to the rest of the other students? Where do they go? Half of those students probably didn't even want to do medicine, but they were pushed in that area because they passed grade 12 and their parents really want them to be doctors. Not a bad thing to be a doctor, right? But it has to be, like you said, you kind of know deep down, say, okay, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pursue something, just zero in on that and stay focused on that.
Yeah. And it's usually a thing of prestige. It's like, oh yeah, I want my son to be a doctor. So that
Yeah.
when they see me walking, which is very sad. Like you said, it
Yeah.
can't be a one size fits all. Like there are so many great things that can be achieved in other fields. So
And then it brings about a very important aspect of things as well, right? Because once you're put in this system which you don't think you fully belong, and which you truly do not fully belong, right? You now get stressed. Whenever you don't do well, you feel like you're letting people down. Now you start stressed. Now you feel like you're letting your parents down and everyone who loves you down. Then the end effect is you have people who people go mad, people kill themselves, and we don't want it to reach those ends, right? We're
yeah.
saying if you have a dream and if you have the means, try to stay your course. One thing that I really appreciate about the US is people take pride in being unique. It doesn't matter what you're unique. If you're unique in, I don't know, speaking good, be unique in that. Last question from me. Um, I know people are always giving advice, right? No, do this. No, life is like this. What's a piece of advice that you personally do not agree with? but the general population agrees.
Hmm.
What's your
I was not expecting that. Um, let's see. Oh, well, it's not well. It's like this advice that you are enough, and it's not that I'm saying it. Okay, so I disagree with that advice because of mostly how it's taken.
Yeah.
It's like it's this thing of, and also other advice that's in that line, like, oh, you are already the person that you need to be. Like, you don't need to try, stuff like that. And it's like, no, just be comfortable and yeah. So I don't agree with that because a lot of things are learned, a lot of skills are learned. If I was to sit down and say, oh, I'm good enough, yes, I wasn't going to try to like reach beyond what I'm going to reach. And like the last semester was a huge example of that because I was going to take like a heavy course load, not in credit hours alone, but in like the types of classes. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Like I sat down, I was like going through, oh, I work this job. I actually have 3 jobs on campus. And I was like, I have leadership positions. Like there's no way I'm going to do all of this. And I tried several times. Like I sat down, I'm like, how can I change my schedule? But I was just like, no, let me try and see what's going to happen. When I tell you, like, I was pushed so far beyond my comfort zone,
Mm,
I was pushed so far, but I have never been so productive in my entire life. Like when I didn't have time and when I had so much on my mind all the time, I learned so many things that I could do that I didn't even know I could. And your son was like, "Oh, know yourself. Just be comfortable. Don't try to." I wouldn't have even tried to
yeah.
go beyond my comfort zone. So yeah.
No, they say comfort is the death of all dreams. So
Mm.
it will be comfy. What about you, Jackson? What do you think? I'm interested to hear yours because you're always giving me good perspectives.
The advice that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Hmm. I have to think about that for a minute. I received so many. I'm that type of person who, like, if somebody tells me something, I filter out the bad and just take the good. So if I don't agree with, my brain doesn't even know about it because it didn't even register. I just from the time it leaves that person's mouth, I'm like, yeah, it's not entering my brain. But I have to think about something that I disagree with. I mean, yeah, I have to think about it really. I don't have an answer up front.
You didn't think that question would reach you, huh?
What
Yeah.
advice, what advice don't you agree with?
What advice don't I agree with? I think it's the one that you said.
But yeah, that one, yeah, I don't agree with
Yeah.
that one.
Because there's also a great saying to say, I want to go to the moon, so that maybe if I miss, I might land in the stars. I don't know. When you said that, I kind of brought that together, whereby if you just go to the moon and you get comfortable, you come back, right? But then you're so close to the stars that you could go for the stars, and maybe when you reach the stars again, you should even just aim higher again. So in life, you really need not to get comfortable, but whenever you reach a certain point, just try to go higher. Just try to go higher. Just chew it in bits and bits, because like you said, imagine if you had gotten comfortable, your dream school was CBU. So I had the points for CBU. You go to CBU, you do everything there. It ends there, but maybe the Lord has bigger plans for you, but then you're limiting yourself because someone gave you this great advice. Say, Kutemwa, you have 6 points. CBU.
CPU.
Yeah, life ends there. But anyway, is there anything else that you would like us to touch on that we didn't touch
Um, Nothing specific.
on?
I
Okay,
actually have a last question. No,
great.
I don't know. I don't want to go it live because we might have other questions.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to hear your perspective, Kutemwa. We've talked about, the three of us are in the United States. We are all Zambian. We have seen some differences in terms of culture, Zambian culture, American culture, and all that stuff. So my question is about the Zambian culture. Some of the things you think we can let go, and some of the things we should keep. Are there any specific practices where you're like, yeah, we should stop doing this? But then others where you're like, after being to America, I think let's keep this. I've seen this done a certain way, and let's keep that. Are there any such practices?
Well, so before I answer the question, that's a great question. Like, because I realized how close they were. I was living in a box. Like, I didn't even think that like there can be a different culture. I don't know. It's so obvious, but I didn't really like think it through, you know. And then the fact that I came here without my parents, like I can literally decide the kind of person I want to be. Like, you know. So it's really like you said, it's really a matter of filtering, like, oh, what do I want to keep versus what do I want to learn? And it's been a lot of that, like of course, since I came here. One of the things I'm trying to let go of is, of course, we talked about the reading culture being very bad. I want to grow out of that. And also one of the things, I don't know if it's, I don't know, I guess it's the way I'm thinking of the word culture, but I feel like a lot of things about being Zambian are like really for prestige. Like coming here really opened my eyes to that. It's usually a matter of, oh, when people see me walking down the street, or like, I don't know, when a lot of things are just like, oh, I need to be the place where this person is, or I need to get this car because of this person and this person. And it's so much like the country is so, we're always looking at each other like, oh, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? And that's one thing I want to like that I'm trying to learn from here. Cause like Nelson said, it's very much like people celebrate their uniqueness and they celebrate their goals, and even other people around them celebrate with them. So that's something that I'm trying to learn and grow in. Another thing, I don't know why my mind is going blank right now. But also, so I'm in New Orleans. New Orleans is like a whole different culture, a whole different country on its own. So one of the things that I love about the culture here is how everyone loves what they're doing. Like you can go to the cafeteria and like the people there will be so happy, like, oh, do you want like, oh, do you want some food there? Like, and it's southern, so they'll be like, oh, hi baby, do you want some food? Oh, sweetheart, stuff like that. And it took a while to get used to, you know. But it's
Yeah.
just like that they're so friendly. Like New Orleans is literally the friendliest place I've ever been in my entire life. Like you can have a conversation with someone you never met in your entire life, and like it's just like that joy, like it's so infectious, you know. Someone smiles at you, hi, of course, like you're going to greet the next person and stuff like that. And like I feel like in Zambia, like everyone's upset. It's just, I feel like it also goes with us like forcing people into certain careers and certain corners. Because you see your teachers in class, they are so upset. I had one teacher who was like, even if I don't teach you, I'm still going to get paid. And she would be angry the whole lesson. Like she would be so upset. I don't know what people did to her, but you know, it's so common. You go to the hospital, the nurses are so rude and so like it's not everyone, obviously, you know. But
Yeah.
it's just go to ShopRite. You can't even greet the cashier. You can just see from their face that this person this person is going through some things.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm trying to learn. Just like being nice to people and like talking to people. It's always like I don't have to know someone to get to know something about, you know. But that's I think that's more of a New Orleans than the US. I don't know what you guys' experiences have been with that. But yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to emulate.
Yeah, Zambians are angry, man. I don't know what people did to them, but oof, especially government offices.
Oh,
Ah, those guys I don't know, like if you don't like your work, don't work there.
Yeah.
Just want to make things hard for everybody. I definitely relate to that one.
But then you can also be happy if you're hungry, right?
that's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. That was such a great question, Jackson. And what about you? What culture practice do you think we should shy away from? And which one should we embrace?
Okay. Time management, Zambians, please.
Aha!
Yeah. There's nothing. No, okay, guys, for today, there's a reason why why I came late. But generally, bro, it gets on my nerves. Like recently, I went home to visit. Right? You arrange with everybody, like, okay, yes, 11 a.m. we're gonna meet. Everybody agrees on the place to meet. Cool. Nobody objects and everything like that. The time comes to meet. 11 a.m. I'm there. And I had to wait for an hour and a half before people start showing up. Do you know what I would have done in 1 hour and 30 minutes?
Yeah.
That is so frustrating. I don't know where that culture came from, but we should change. You know, time management, like, when they say time is money, right? They don't mean like literal money. They just mean like the value of time, what you can do in that time is very important. Some of us are organized. So we plan out everything we want to do. So when we put you on our agenda, we've taken time out to say in this period of time, we're going to do this. Maybe we have other things to do afterwards. If you delay by an hour, you are literally pushing everything that I was going to do that day. If one of those things was going to bring me money, I won't make my money because you came late. And that's where the time is money comes from. So you are pushing all my agendas, and that will affect everything I do. So I just, in terms of work culture and time management, Zambians, please, we need to do better. I think that's one thing I see about Americans. They follow time. When they say I'll meet you at 11, they'll come at 11. So we should definitely emulate that. Anything else that I can think of off the top of my head? There's in the education system. I know, like, yeah. I mean, I'm deep in the education, but in the education system, the way we phrase our exam questions or even test questions, I think we need to look into that and maybe change it a little bit. I like the way they ask questions here. The way they ask questions makes you think. You know, I used to love physics. I still love physics up to this point. But then the first time I went in a physics class here, and the questions, the way they were coming, I was like, yeah, that's not how they ask questions. The way they ask questions back home, they just give you numbers and they give you a system and you just solve them based on the things you know in class. But here, they make you think. You first need to think of the situation. You need to understand what's going on first before you can solve it. So I think that aspect, we need to do more of those questions where we can think more. And then there are other things that I know right now I'm blank, but there are a few things that I think about that I'm like, I would love to see this, I would love to keep this, but yeah, for now I'll just mention those two.
Talking about the way questions are set, right? You even have people who sell pamphlets with questions. So you already know to say, if the question starts with Mr. Banda took out, you answer it before you even finish reading.
Yeah, you know the answer already from the first phrase.
You don't even have to think. You don't have. So that's such a powerful example, and it goes back to what Kutemwa was saying. Like, these things are practical, so we need to be ahead that thing. The other point that you also made about time goes back again full circle to what Kutemwa was saying. Time is such a valuable piece to never misuse ever. And so yeah, great. Thank you so much, Kutemwa. You've been such a bundle of wisdom to just tap in and just learn from you, from experience. How was Mardi Gras?
So I ran away. I wasn't in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. I was in Texas for a mission trip, but I did like take part in Mardi Gras last year. It's just not for me. It's just the main thing is being outside with a whole group of people waiting for a parade. Then they throw random stuff, and then that's it. So people spend like an entire day. They'll be at 6 a.m. lining up in the streets to wait for the parade. Which I can see the joy in, but I'm not. It's not like I'll be. Oh yeah, let me go into the streets and just.
It's funny because this is the same time I met you last year, right? It was during the Mardi Gras period.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Prosecco. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming here again. I will just stop this recording.
Thank you for having me.